Welcome to today's on-demand webinar on the use of Benecel modified cellulose in fried foods. We will talk about who Ashlin Specialty Ingredients is, and then we'll discuss how to formulate for oil reduction in fried foods. We'll focus on a background in frying foods, and then the mechanism for oil uptake. We'll discuss ingredients for reducing oil uptake, which includes Benecel modified cellulose, and then we'll look at an application study in chicken nuggets using Benecel modified cellulose. Ashlin is an $8 billion company. We currently have 4 divisions. Food ingredients fall under Ashlin Specialty Ingredients, along with other regulated industries such as personal care and pharmaceutical. This map indicates where our offices and labs are. We are on 4 continents and have food labs in Brazil, China, Germany, and the United States. We have 1,000 R&D scientists and put 3.5% of our resources back into R&D. Our portfolio of food ingredients may be used in a variety of applications and have functionalities from thickening to foam promotion. We fry food for a number of reasons. The first is that it tastes really good. It has a great crunch. People like it and are satisfied by eating something fried. And lastly, it's a very fast way of cooking. Unfortunately, frying takes on a lot of oil, and oil is high in calories. A diet that is consistently in excess of calories will lead to weight gain, which can in turn lead to more serious conditions like metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and even heart disease. This is a concern to customers, and they seek out lower-calorie foods. The International Food Information Council surveyed consumers, and 75% of consumers will choose a lower-fat option at least some of the time, and 30% of consumers make that choice often. When we look at the mechanism of fried food, it is ultimately about water. As the food is being fried, the water boils out of the crust, and it creates pores in the crust of the food. This moisture loss will ultimately result in negative pressure within the food. When the fried food is removed from the oil and begins to cool, the pressure difference from the surface to the interior of the food suctions the oil into the pores that had been created by evaporating water. The majority of oil, up to 80%, may be absorbed in this way. Benecel modified cellulose are ingredients that may be directly added to fried food to help reduce oil uptake. Benecel modified cellulose is a unique ingredient because it forms a thermally reversible gel and becomes an egg white texture above its gel point. When the temperature drops below that point, the gel reverts back to liquid. At frying temperatures, Benecel modified cellulose gels and restricts water mobility, and it also creates a barrier to oil. There are several different types of Benecel modified cellulose based on their chemistry, and they have different water holding properties. A types have the lowest gelling temperature and the firmest texture. E and F types have a moderate gel temperature, while K types have the highest gel temperature at around 80 degrees Celsius and the softest texture. It's almost pudding-like. Here's a graph showing the range of methoxyl and hydroxypropyl content on a cellulose backbone. As you may see, the chemical makeup across Benecel modified cellulose types is quite different from one another, which gives them different functionalities. The A type, which is also called a methylcellulose, has the lowest gelling point, has the most methoxyl content, and no hydroxypropyl. E, F, and K types are called hydroxypropylmethylcellulose, or HPMC, and have a range of methoxyl and hydroxypropyl contents. K has the highest gelling temp and has the lowest amount of methoxyl and the most hydroxypropyl. As the methoxyl content increases, the molecule becomes more hydrophobic, although still water-soluble. It becomes less tolerant of other solutes such as salt. As the hydroxypropyl content increases, the hydrophilicity increases. Benecel modified cellulose reduces oil by holding more moisture during frying, but does not negatively affect the crispiness of the product. It also modifies the pores that are created during frying. It provides texture and structure in the form of crunch and firmness. Benecel also enhances product integrity and appearance by reducing blow-off, shown here. Blow-off not only makes the final product look bad, but it also deteriorates oil quality. Benecel modified cellulose forms thermally reversible gels that not only bind water, which minimizes pore creation, but it also can mitigate negative pressure in food. We have found in our research that there's a strong negative correlation between moisture post-frying to oil content. The more moisture that remains in the crust, the less oil that is taken into the final fried crust. We have found that Benecel modified cellulose mitigates the pore depth and area on the crust, so there's not as much physical space created for the oil to be absorbed into. Reduced negative pressure can also mean weaker suction into the pores. We looked at oil absorption in the coating on a macro scale by deep frying the wheat batter in red dyed oil. The dye is heat stable and is oil soluble to give us a visual representation of how the oil is absorbed. The control is a darker shade of red and has greater areas of dark red mottling. The deeper red hues indicate a greater depth of oil penetration. We wanted to go a bit further by understanding the pores on a micro level as well, so we used a confocal Raman microscope to map where the oil resides in the crust. A confocal Raman microscope takes a 3D image, although here it appears 2D, so we know the area and depth of oil, and here we're interested in depth. We looked at fried wheat coating with no hydrocolloid, which we're calling the control, versus a coating that contained Benecel modified cellulose. The areas of darker red show higher concentrations of oil, and we can see that there is not only a greater area covered by the red and yellow in the control, but it also penetrates deeper into the crust. These photos are taken using a scanning electron microscope, or SEM, of fried wheat coating at 100x. They clearly show the differences between pores created on the control, which contains no hydrocolloid, against a fried coating with Benecel modified cellulose. There are fewer pores on the Benecel modified cellulose coating, and they are smaller in size. To quantify the pore sizes, we put the images of the fried coatings into image J and ran macros to isolate the pores on the field of view, and then we did an area analysis. What the area analysis showed was that the fried coating with Benecel modified cellulose had only 0.7% of its area covered in pores, while the coating without Benecel modified cellulose had 3.6% of its area covered in pores. We looked at several images at different magnifications at 20, 40, and 100x and did the same kind of analysis on it. We found the control had more of its surface covered in pores than the coatings that contained Benecel modified cellulose. We looked at Benecel modified cellulose in chicken nugget to test oil content in an application. This recipe is based on USDA regulations, and in order to keep it lean, we left out the skin. The batter was wheat-based, and we used a 1.3:1 wet-to-dry ratio. Benecel modified cellulose was added dry without any prehydration at a 0.4% total batter weight level. We par-fried the nuggets, froze them, and then fried them for 5 minutes and tested them for oil content and moisture. We tested samples for oil content using time-domain nuclear magnetic resonance, shown in the photo here, that had been calibrated to the frying oil. The TD-NMR was used because it can very quickly test samples. We also tested the results against sock slit analysis, which is the gold standard to ensure accuracy. We tested all the grades of Benecel modified cellulose products at the same viscosity. We also looked at modified cornstarch. And we also looked at a control that contained no hydrocolloids. We can see from this chart that starch actually increases oil uptake compared with the control, while all the Benecel modified cellulose grades have reduced oil uptake and may reduce oil by up to 30%. Others have looked at the oil reduction power of modified cellulose, but often they used only one type and did not compare all the types side by side. We wanted to look at all available types to understand which type is most effective in chicken nugget applications. Our results are reported on the last line, and you can see the chicken nugget results are similar to those of others who have done other applications. All of the Benecel modified cellulose types reduce oil uptake versus control. but A4M and K4M types are the best performing in this application. The product which will be best in your formulation will ultimately be determined by texture preference. There are a number of ways to test crunch. Primo Martin and others looked at measuring acoustic sound amplitude to measure crunch, and they found that K-type actually had a higher intensity than the control without a hydrocolloid, which indicates higher crunch. Garcia and others did a taste panel and used instrumental analysis to test for crunch, and they found no differences in hedonic scores or instrumental numbers, which indicates the crunch is similar to control. To summarize, formulating with Benecel modified cellulose can reduce oil uptake by mitigating pore formation, it enhances the crust, it improves product integrity, and can result in less oil degradation. Ashlin Specialty Ingredients is a world leader in cellulosic food ingredients. Our products meet our food formulation customers' health, convenience, quality, and processing needs in major food applications. We create value through applications, knowledge, market insight, and a powerful product portfolio. AeroWhip and Klucel modified cellulose, Benecel modified cellulose, Aquilon, Blanos, Bondwell, Aquasorb, and Aquacel cellulose gum, and Supercol pore gum. Thank you.